If you want to be taken seriously, don't just say the game sucks. They should just delete the game and go back to working on PoE1 because they don't know what they are doing. And please bring back Chris Wilson because these people don't know what is up. So guys, I have this video here from Dreamcore. You guys know that I like Dreamcore's videos a lot. And the video is called PoE2 is less enjoyable now than it was 4 months ago. Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt. And the thumbnail says a net negative update, dude. Pretty harsh words. Now, you guys know that I have been enjoying the patch. I have been having fun, but I also want to hear from the other side what is happening to have a better understanding of overall how is the game. At this point, we already have the developer interview that they did with Caesar, and they have addressed a lot of the feedback. But I still want to watch this video because maybe there is information that Dreamcore is shading in here that maybe wasn't addressed or just prompt us to talk fundamentally about the philosophy and the vision of the game. So let's see it, dude.
Hello guys, and welcome to another video. Now, I've played Path of Exile 2's Dawn of the Hunt update quite a lot over the weekend. I've progressed through the campaign and into maps. I'm in early maps now and I'm playing a spear build, so I feel like I have a decent grasp on the patch overall, minus some of the significant endgame content updates which I haven't interacted with just yet. But I wanted to make a video with my feedback for this patch, now that I've had some time to collect my thoughts. So let's begin with the campaign. Now, back at the early access launch of Path of Exile 2, the campaign was praised by many, myself included, as being the best part of the game. It really did feel like Acts 1 through 3 were balanced very well, and the pacing was really good. You felt like your character was getting stronger as you progressed, and even though there were some rough edges, overall it was a satisfying experience. And then into the cruel half of the campaign, the pacing started to run away, and by the time we reached maps, it was just out of control and felt like a completely different game at that point. However, I want to focus on the campaign right now, because in patch 0.2, I believe GGG's balance changes have largely ruined what was a really good experience going through Acts 1, 2 and 3 back at launch 4 months ago. The issue here is that these balance changes were supposed to address the state of endgame, which was a good idea because endgame balance was completely skewed. But the changes have somehow massively impacted the campaign experience. You no longer feel that satisfying progression of your character getting stronger because it feels like you're always behind the curve. Monsters are so tanky, they take far too long to kill, and I know GGG are currently addressing this with some emergency hotfixes to monster life, but I question how these changes managed to even get into the game in the state they are. This patch overall feels like it could have been worked on for another 4 months and still not be ready for release. And I know some people may say that this is an early access game. What do you expect? Well, if it's an early access game, why is GGG treating it as a full release product? Why won't they make the necessary changes to the game as and when they're needed? Looking back at my own experience through the campaign, now knowing that the main skill that I was playing was actually bugged and was dealing far too much damage than it should have been, I realise now that the only reason I was able to breeze past the majority of the campaign is because of that bug. Without that, it would have been the slog that I experienced in Acts 1 and 2, all the way through. And I think really that's one of my major takeaways of this patch. The campaign just feels like a chore, whereas I thoroughly enjoyed it 4 months back. So much so that I ran 7 or 8 different characters all the way through the full campaign.
You guys know that I also enjoyed it this time. But I understand all these concerns. To me, it was the same experience as last time. It was brought to my attention that it is probably because I played Warrior the first time, which was already slow. So when I played this time with a different class, I felt it the same way. I don't know. I also played the campaign like with every ascendancy in the first season. So yes, the campaign was the best part in the game the first time around. So they are trying to improve the end game, which is what people really wanted them to do. But apparently it had a fallout affecting the campaign, right, for a lot of people. But we already know that they are trying to fix it and improve it. So we are finding that aspect, right?
Campaign back at original launch, just so that I didn't have to play the end game because the end game wasn't good. Whereas now, there's a huge problem. You see, this Dawn of the Hunt patch was massively focused on Path of Exile 2's endgame. GGG have added all of this new endgame content and made a lot of changes to the endgame experience, but all of it will be for naught if players don't actually reach the endgame and get to play it. And that's what I've been seeing. Lots of people either quitting because they're not enjoying the game in the campaign, or people on the outside looking in and deciding not to play because the general sentiment is that this is not a good time to play Path of Exile 2. Now, I want to discuss what I believe is one of the biggest problems with Path of Exile 2 right now, and this is something that affects the entire game, not just the campaign, but also into the endgame, and that's the monsters. The monsters in Path of Exile 2 are completely imbalanced. As I mentioned before, they have too much life, and that's not the biggest issue that I see with them either. The biggest problem is how fast they are relative to how fast your character can be.
Exactly.
So often
we have talked about this extensively, and they kind of address it in the developer interview. They want some mobs to be fast, but not all of them need to be fast, so they are going to look into it. They already dropped like an article in the forums talking about how they are going to improve this shit too, that they are going to do a pass on every monster to see what monsters need to be slowed down. But apparently they don't want all the combat shit to be slow. They still want a lot of monsters to be fast. So let's see what actually happens soon.
That you're just getting run down by a rare monster that's just auto-attacking you to death. You can't possibly outpace the monster, and you're just in a state of permanently dodge rolling away. But of course, you can't deal damage while doing this, so you're not winning that battle. There's not enough access to player movement or attack and cast speed to counter the obscene speed of some of the monsters, and at the same time, there's no really good universal defensive options either, so it's not like you can just tank them. Now, I don't really want to talk about or compare PoE 2 to PoE 1 in this review, but I just want to mention here that the only reason ridiculously fast monsters work in PoE 1 is that you have many options available as a player to deal with them. You can build a lot of defense to tank them, or you can build a lot of speed to outpace them, or you can build a lot of damage and kill them before they kill you. But in PoE 2, none of these things are an option. It feels like these much slower, methodical character builds, and then it just has PoE 1 monsters that run rampant all over the game. Seriously, the monsters are out of control and they need a major balance pass across the board. If GGG...
At least they badly recognize it. They don't think they are out of control like we think, but at least they are going to make a pass on it, right? So let's see what they actually cook with that. I want to see some changes because this is one of the pain points, in my opinion, in the game, that the monsters' speed contradicts a lot of the things they are going for supposedly with the game, which is combo-oriented gameplay, which is meaningful combat. A lot of that shit, the monsters' speed just fucking contradicts it. So let's see what they are going to actually do.
Want to realize their vision of this slower paced game, they need to address the monsters. We need monsters that are dangerous, but ones that you can actually play around.
Yes.
Now, another big issue with the game right now for me is the loot. There's just not enough loot available to aid your character in progression. Necessary currency drops such as Artificer's Orbs, Exalts, and Regals, you know, the currency you're expecting.
This was discussed in the interview, but they are still eager to actually upgrade the loot drop. In my opinion, what they should do, and it is because I hate rarity, is just bring the base loot of the whole fucking game as if you had 500% rarity, and then delete rarity out of the game. Rarity sucks dick, and all my homies hate rarity. It is stupid. We have talked at length about why rarity sucks, so I am not going to go into it. But rarity sucks dick, and I want to see it removed. So make the base drops better. That will make a lot of people happy and happier. And then you remove rarity. Best thing you could do for the game, dude. Best thing you could do for the fucking game.
To utilize to improve your gear as you progress, well, there's not enough of it dropping. It's very similar to what I discussed before, where you don't have that satisfying experience of getting stronger because your gear is in a constant state of requiring upgrades. Upgrades that you simply cannot get unless you get really lucky with some random ground drops. There's no direction early on to get good gear, no easy solutions to solve gearing problems. If you have bad gear and you're out of currency, you're out of luck. You'll have to retread completed areas to farm loot. And this is where I still believe that the game would benefit massively from a basic crafting bench to streamline gear progression and offset unlucky streaks in loot. And for me, this is another example of Path of Exile 2 doing change for change's sake when it comes to runes. Runes do not and cannot replace a crafting bench. They're just infinitely worse as a solution to aid in early gearing. Now, it's possible that loot drop rates were tampered with for this patch, but I expect that the actual reason why this feels worse is because player power is down massively across the board. And now you need much better gear to get even remotely close to where you were before. The expected gear level is higher as a result, while drops are seemingly unchanged, so you feel so much weaker overall.
This is true.
Now,
this
speaking
is
of feeling
true.
weak, let's talk about the spear in early progression. I can't speak on the Huntress start location on the tree because I played a Mercenary, but Mercenary does have a lot of projectile damage scaling immediately from the start, so I used spear projectile skills from the very beginning, and overall they felt very weak aside from a few exceptions such as Twister, which was bugged and is now nerfed. Now, I do think that this is a lot less of a spear thing and more of an overall shift in player power across the board. It just so happens that the spear was introduced in this patch and a lot of people naturally gravitated towards using it right away, and this is the experience they had.
Yes.
However, with that said, I think
that is why one of the reasons why I think my experience was different for a lot of people, and I said, brother, what are you people talking about? To me, the patch is awesome. I am having fun, but it was because I was playing crossbow, Mercenary crossbow, not Huntress spear, and a lot of people having troubles with the game were because of spears, and the other group was minions. So these two groups, and those are a lot of builds that people play, right? The new class and minions, those groups were impacted a lot, and that is why you also receive this huge feedback, right? I am not saying other classes didn't, but this was like the biggest group, dude. And that is one of the reasons I believe that I received the patch differently than other people. Maybe if I had started with the spears the same way as other people, maybe I would have said that, yes, it is not as much fun this time. But I am having the same fun that I did on the first patch, maybe because of the class I'm playing, right? This was my biggest problem, especially for the Huntress. You need so much more strength than that is reasonable, and you kind of lock behind your low level item because of attribute requirements. Yep. And that is why it is so awesome that in the new patch that they are going to deploy as soon as they can, they are going to introduce runes that give you attributes so that you can fix that shit, which is fucking awesome.
I think it would have been better for overall reception of the Dawn of the Hunt patch to have the spear come in strong and feel better early on, to nerf it down a bit later on if it was too out of line against other options. Instead, the spear felt weaker than other options, which isn't ideal considering that most people just want to play the new thing whenever a new release is happening.
Exactly.
Okay, the last thing I want to discuss in this review is the size of the zones. Now, I know this is something that isn't new to this patch. The zones were
They already said that they are going to nerf a lot of big zones, so yes, they already recognize this and they are fixing it, but let's see what he has to say about it, because I am one of the people that were not that mad about the zones being big. I kind of didn't mind, but I also welcome the change. I am not mad because they are changing it. I welcome the change. It wasn't one of my biggest issues with the game, simply. But let's see what Drinkcore has to say about it, right? Because maybe although we know that they are fixing some zones, we can still extract some knowledge from here, right?
Already huge with many terrible layouts in the early access launch 4 months ago, but it's important to recognize why this issue in particular is exacerbated by this patch. It's pretty simple, really. Players are weaker, monsters are stronger, and it takes longer to kill monsters, and you need to play much slower as a result. And therefore, zones take way longer to clear, and this only adds to the problems caused by horrible layouts that constantly run into dead ends.
Yep.
It just makes a lot of the zones feel extremely frustrating to traverse. Now, in GGG's planned updates, they discuss this issue and talks about...
By the way, guys, to the people that are negative and that want to say that the game sucks, this is the way you do it. How Drinkcore is doing it in here. Providing actual constructive criticism, saying why it is bad. Right? This is how you do it, by the way. This is the way. I know that it's his job, but hey, brother, if you want to be taken seriously, don't just say the game fucking sucks, they should just delete the game and go back to working on PoE1 because they don't know what they are doing, and please bring back Chris Wilson because these people don't know what is up. That is not feedback, dude. That is not feedback. That is just whatever the fuck, right? So what Dreamcore is doing in here, that is fucking feedback, dude. It's honestly a lot worse because the gems have too high of requirement for no reason. I think it's kind of massive. It's probably my biggest issue, to be honest, the biggest one. Brother, there are a lot of things, in my opinion, that sucks dick more. Trading sucks dick more. Crafting sucks dick more. The bridge and the delirium speed sucks dick more. The mobs swarming you sucks dick more. What else can I think of that sucks more? Probably more things. But those are some of the support gems. 80% of them suck dick. Like, I can come up with a lot of things that suck more than Sons being big, dude. In my opinion, I am not trying to diminish your opinion. I am saying what I think that are bigger problems than Sons. Hey, and I am happy with the changes. I am very positive to the changes to the big Sons, by the way. I welcome it. I am just saying that to me, it wasn't one of the biggest issues.
Adding more checkpoints. But the way I see it, checkpoints are just a band-aid fix to a fundamental problem in PoE 2. The layouts need serious work, especially if they want to keep the game as slow as it is right now. To summarize, balance changes should not have changed the campaign, which was my favourite part of the game 4 months ago, and now it feels like a slog.
Apparently it was unintended. Like, they didn't want it to be this way. They wanted to affect endgame, and as a byproduct, as a collateral damage, they fucked up the campaign. But apparently it was unintended, dude. So let's see what happens.
Monsters are simply ridiculous. They're too fast, and players need options available to them if they're not going to be slowed down. Loot needs reviewing, especially progression currency in the early campaign, and I'd like to see a basic crafting bench added to the game. Spear skills could do with some adjustments in the very early levels, as they feel too weak as they are right now. And lastly, if the game is going to remain at the current pace, the size and shapes of zone layouts needs to be reviewed to prevent frustration when traversing through areas in the campaign and in
Apparently
maps.
they are doing it. Let's see what happens.
Overall, with my current experience of patch 0.2, which doesn't include much of the endgame content that was added, I feel that this update was an overall net negative to Path of Exile 2. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned.
I wouldn't go as far as net negative because they added a bunch of content. Hey, the Huntress is here, a bunch of endgame content is here, a lot of support gens and uniques are here. Like, it is not a net negative, but yes, some stuff wasn't ready. A lot of stuff wasn't ready. That is the truth. But hey, they are working on fixing it. I have faith. I have faith. The criticism that Dreamcore is giving here is absolutely valid. And you know why it is valid? Because with the new article that they released saying what they are planning to change, they are addressing a lot of things that he said in here, which means that it was constructive criticism and that it was valid. So thank you very much, Dreamcore, for this video, dude. I love Dreamcore's videos. They are fucking cool. He's very analytical and I like it, dude. Let me know everything that you think in the comments below. I love reading comments even when they don't agree with me. Also remember to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, all that cool stuff. Guys, thanks for being here. You guys are fucking awesome. God bless ya. And remember, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride.